What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. You guys already know me. My name is Nick. I'm here with my editor slash a new trader,
There we
Will.
go. Yeah.
What's going on, Will? How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So what we're
All
going to
right.
be doing today in this vlog is we are here in our office in Atlanta. Things are nice. It's a beautiful day outside, and we're here talking a little bit about some of our own trades, as well as going to hear a little bit from Will. Will is a aspiring trader, if that's a good term for it.
Yep.
Look at his notebook, as you can see. He's got
my
a
notebook
notebook
out.
full of stuff. That's called dedication.
There
For
it
those of you
is.
guys who are newer traders, that's how you do it. You put the time in, you put the effort in. So that's what we're going to do. But what we're going to do is we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the trades that I have on currently that are in the live room, some from the VIP community we offer here at A1 Trading. And we're going to hear a little bit from Will. What have you been up to? What have you been looking at? That sort of thing. So we'll get to that as well. So
All right, cool.
Pretty excited. So what I'm going to do here, for starters, is we can take a look at one of my positions just to get a general idea of kind of what I've been trading. I can share a little bit of insight on this trade for myself. And then ultimately, we can go into talking about some of your trades as well. If you have any questions along the way, hit me up and we'll go from there.
Cool. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to move this mic a little closer to me. So what we've got here on pound Canadian, currently this is a trade that I shared inside of the live trading room. And this is actually a short setup trade. It is just about, actually I got to double check on my phone in a second if this trade actually closed out. But you can see it looks like we just came and hit our take profit here on this pound Canadian move. So we're here on the 4-hour chart. And the idea behind this concept is that we're in a range trading market, which basically means markets back and forth. We're seeing up, we're seeing down, not a strong kind of directional bias here on the pound pairs. In general, pound dollar, if we pulled up pound dollar really quick, we can just take a look kind of for comparison. Pound USD, really back and forth market right now. You can see not a ton of directional bias on the overall move in this particular market, right? So things are back, things are forth, right? So no clear direction. So when we go back to pound Canadian, basically the idea behind this trade is it was based off the 4-hour chart and the 1-hour chart, and the idea here is that you can see we had this market ranging back, forth. We had this level of resistance up here.
I see that level right there.
You got your resistance across the top. You got your support across the bottom. Things are back, things are forth. And again, as price started to rise into this level, what I basically looked to do was I wanted to get short. I wanted to be a potential seller in this range-bound market. When a market is ranging back and forth, what generally happens is that it's consolidating, right? Price is not decisive enough, usually, in that scenario to continue one way or another.
Right.
So with that in mind, when I was looking at pound Canadian, the idea was here, okay, I think there's a better reward potential to try and short back towards, back into the range, rather than trying to catch the breakout, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
So there was more, it's not necessarily did I know this was going to happen, right? I didn't know that price was going to drop 80 pips in our favor with 100% certainty, right? No such thing. What I did know is that I thought there was a better risk to reward, right? More reward potential than risk.
That's right.
And that's all we're doing as traders. We're not here trying to pick where the market's going all the time. We're not wizards. We're not magicians. There's a million things going into the price movements we see in the currency market, right? So my idea was there's more potential to the downside. There's more chance, more probability to see downfall on the pound Canadian due to the ranging market environment we're in, rather than seeing markets continue.
And this is what this that you drew here, I don't know the exact term for this, but this tells you your ratio pretty much.
Yes.
Now that it's 2-to-1, because your stop loss could be in this range, but look at how much you can take profit from. It's night and day.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of a kind of heavier potential upside.
Right, exactly.
The downside.
Than the downside.
Now there is one thing we have to talk about with that. When it comes to, if it were that case, if it was that easy, well then what would people do? People would just do this. They'd put a tiny one, they'd put a massive one, right?
That's right.
Just put a huge. The problem is when you do this, inevitably you take more losses.
That's true.
So you don't get to have your cake and eat it too, right? The old saying. If you increase your risk, then you also potentially increase your chance of being correct. You're not going to be 100% anyways, but it kind of comes down to finding what's working for you. So this is a 2-to-1 trade went in our direction. Clearly, that's a good trade.
Correct.
A lot of times it's going to go against you. A lot of times you're not going to have that. But the idea was range-bound market, better chance to return to kind of the moment into the downside here. Now, there's one thing I wanted to add to this trade, and I know people in the comment section might ask this question. If we draw this level, right, we have the pivot zone here. Take a look. Price oscillating back. You can see we had bounce there, bounce there, bounce there.
Mm-hmm.
Price respected on the way down as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of kind of back and forth on that level at the pivot zone. Now you can see right here, price actually found a strong bounce off of that level, and it was looking like, well, it looks like this trade might go back to break even.
Exactly.
I actually didn't move stops to break even on this particular trade. For this strategy, I'm basically just sticking to my guns with the trade setup. If I see a setup, then I'm going to stick to it. I'm not going to move stops.
Mm-hmm.
In some other strategies, I might move stops. But in this one, not so much. In this case, I just held the trade. Price actually ended up failing that bounce. We saw some sort of a strong bounce off of that level.
Mm-hmm.
But then price rolled over and broke back underneath, and it looks like we hit our take profit there.
Right down there, yeah.
Yeah, and it depends. I'm not sure exactly if the broker I use got out of the trade or not, but I use my trading view just as kind of charting in this case.
Love it.
That's kind of the trade. I don't know if you have any further questions on that concept. It's actually pretty straightforward, pretty simple concept.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions, what would you?
Yeah. So setup wise, like,
Mhm.
okay, how did you see the setup? Did you base it off that resistance level that has been in history at the very top over here, and then
Right.
you saw that, and then you were like, that's interesting. I see it. It's going to come back to that resistance level, so I'm going to say it's going to be a sell short. Is that how you pretty much came to your conclusion?
Sure. So we've talked about it a couple of times. Trades are generally kind of a story unfolding every
Mhm.
time, right? Every price movement in the markets is somewhat unique to every other movement.
Mm-hmm.
So when price actually started, rising here, basically what I said is I picked out this level.
Okay.
I understood that, okay, well, pound Canadian pretty much been back and forth all throughout this area. So I
All throughout
started
history,
looking
yep.
for resistance levels to potentially see where price could drop from. Price
Mhm.
could find some sort of seller's market in this area, and sure enough, I picked out this area. When price got up into that zone and started to see some rejection, I took the sell side setup here on the swing trade basis, and you can see price dropped from there. So it wasn't necessarily like a perfect pinpoint, strategy that I see 100 times every day.
Yeah.
This one was kind of just understanding the story of what price was doing. So if we were to kind of draw this, right, it wasn't necessarily like, the perfect, setup that we see every single time, right? It's not something like this. It's
Okay.
more so understanding that this market environment that we are currently in
Mm-hmm.
is back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of choppiness, a lot of ranging market environment.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what you're looking at, different things are going to be behaving differently. If a market is trending, right, clearly going one direction, it's going to be a little bit harder to try and find buys in this market.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lot easier to try and find buys in a market that's back and forth like this.
That's true.
So this is a back and forth play. Basically, it's not what I call it every time. It's not a very professional term, but it's a back and forth market.
Right.
I found some resistance levels and I took a trade, and it worked out.
That makes perfect sense. Wow.
Cool. So that's the pound Canadian trade. Looks like we're just about to close profits there. I believe that's just about, I think it's a 85 to 95 pip movement, depending on, I just kind of drew this in. This is not exact from what my trade setup was, but it's pretty close. So 85, 90 pips there in profit on pound Canadian. What do you have going on in your trading?
Yeah.
Either from the chart perspective or just from your trading plan? What's been going on?
Yeah. So for me, my trading plan is I'll just talk to this camera, is to look at pullbacks and to pretty much look at the simple moving averages, see if they intersect between the 20 and the 50, and then to see if there is some resistance in history or support. Either way the trade is going, that's what I'm kind of looking for. And during the past week, I looked at Dow, and I'm looking at it right now, so
Okay.
I'll just talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I see the 20 and 50 moving averages, they kind of intersect here. So this could be a level of, okay, let's see if it's going to come back down there, because it was moving very strongly off of it, but now it's kind of in consolidating, trying to decide, does it want to shoot away from that, or does it want to come back down to it?
So you've got the 20 period simple moving average, and what was the other one?
The 50 period moving average.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go along with you, and I'm gonna do a little chart markup of my own.
Okay, perfect.
That might be interesting. So we'll
Yeah. So I have the 20, 50, and 200 just to look at.
Okay.
But usually I just do the 200. But I think it's interesting that firstly, between the 20 and the 50 moving averages at around 29453, it kind of bounced off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But now you see it. It's not. It's not more so that this is it. It's going. I think more so it's going to bounce back to that level to test it,
Okay.
to see. And if you look too, and even if you drew a rectangle in here, and I'll do that as well.
Which time frame are you on, real quick?
I'm on 1 hour.
Okay, 1 hour chart.
Yeah.
Got it.
1 hour chart. And for my trading plan, it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour.
Okay.
That's usually what I'm going for. And if you look here between this line, between like that mark that I said, 29454, if you draw a line through that, that is a lot of levels of resistance and support right through here. See what I mean? Right here, where it's kind of intersecting.
Gotcha. Yep.
So that's what I'm looking for too. So if you just go like that, you see there's a lot of history there.
Sure.
I think the Dow, I think honestly from my analysis is that we've been on a high for so long. I really do think that it will correct eventually, but I'll say I'm short-term sell, but I'm long-term bull on it from what I can see.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at on that at the moment.
So right now, do you have any trades open?
Yeah, I have a trade open for a short-term sell.
Okay. Short-term sell.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it looks like, from what I can see, just similar to our pound Canadian trade, and actually just markets in general right now have been kind of quiet. Things have been pretty back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You can see in this case, it's not necessarily any different here on the Dow or on the US30. You can see price pretty back and forth for the time being. Big thing is we do have, of course, that kind of resistance zone in this general area, right around the 29,500 mark. Of course, I think that if price were to break those levels, I think the all-time high there, right around the 29.59 level, could be something to look out for. And I think that if price does decide to drop, right, depending, of course, you might be shorter term or longer term, I do like this level as well, where we found pretty strong support down here, and I'll take these moving averages off just for a second.
And why did you pick that level in particular?
I picked that level because take a look at this. Take a look at the way buyers basically came down in here and very strongly pushed price off. Do you see how price came down to these levels, and without hesitation, a lot of buyers stepped in, pushed that price back.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right, actually 3 times really.
3 times.
You have this level here, shoots off, price came down, shoots off. It's balancing the idea of demand and supply, right? So clearly there has been, doesn't necessarily mean that's 100% going to be in the future, but there has been demand in this area around the 29,300 level. So where we're currently at, we're kind of in between this ranging market environment, right? And of course, this is just my own analysis too, and I'm curious to hear a little bit more of your own. You have a sell trade idea based on, is it this zone that you're looking at?
Yeah, it was that zone.
Okay.
Because I was looking at, I'll just blow this up again. I was really looking at, because a lot of last week how I traded it too is just looking at the simple mover and averages, seeing if those lined up, and then seeing if like there was a support and resistance zone that actually matched it as well. Those are kind of my 2 confirmations.
Gotcha.
And then I would decide accordingly on the trade. But of course, with only risking 1 to 3% of my account.
Okay.
And I've been really keen on my trading plan of cutting my losses short.
Yep.
And then trying to figure out what is a better entry and kind of letting it do its thing.
Sure. So we'll ask the questions that a lot of new traders don't ask. And this is a very important question. If you're a newer trader especially, the first question you should probably ask is not necessarily how much money can I make. It's actually what Will said, which was a really good point. How much are you going to risk? What are you going to do if you're wrong? And how are you going to adjust going forward so that you can improve overall?
Exactly.
Right? So in this case, when you have this kind of resistance zone here that we've been talking about, if price decides to break up, we'll ask Will this question now. Will, what are you going to do if price starts breaking back towards the highs?
If it breaks towards the high, I'm going to cut my loss short.
Okay.
Because I don't have a huge account to even play around with drawdowns. Now, of course, if I had a larger account, but I was pretty confident that it's going to come back down, I would just hold it. But I think new traders, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think where it gets in trouble is that even if you do think it's going to come back to what your analysis is, can you handle the drawdown?
Yes.
That's the thing.
That's very true.
Me, I know myself. And if I see like heavy drawdown, I'm like, wow, I just totally went away from my trading plan, which is
Right.
only risk 1 to 3% of your account. So the
100%.
moment you see 3% or more,
Yeah,
the
I
trade's
think that's
done.
a great. I think that's a
It's
great
done.
approach.
Yeah,
And it definitely is different for different people.
yeah, for
And
sure.
if you had a different sized account and you like the idea of partial entries,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of people hate, but I find some ways to do that pretty effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, for example, if you're looking at my screen, let's say that you sold here,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a bias in this general area of sell pressure,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's say you took a look at the daily chart and you said, hey, you know what? In this general area, I'm bearish, but I want to dip my feet in here. I want to sell because I think this level might drop,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think this level could be also bearish as well. So let's say that you have your account. Let's say you did 0.01 sell here, 0.01 sell here, right? That would be averaging in or kind of building a position. This is, and where you're at, I won't spend too much time on this because I don't want to confuse you or like change up what you're looking at, right?
Right.
This is just for our viewers who have a little bit different of a, different adaptabilities, a different willingness to do different strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just one other way that you could do it, right? If you're bearish in this general zone,
Mm-hmm.
you could be looking to do something like that. But generally, just holding and praying for your losses to come back is probably one of the worst decisions you could do.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? If you're just sitting there and you have no idea and you're just begging the market to come back and help you out,
Yeah.
or asking everybody around you, like, is it going to drop? Is it going to, like, that's not a good strategy.
Exactly.
There is ways to build positions, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
which would be involving, if price goes further against you, you actually build a little bit more of a position to an extent. You
Okay.
cap it off. You protect your risk still, or you protect your capital still. That's always important.
Right.
But there are ways to do that. So when we're talking about your particular concept here, you've got a bearish bias in this general area.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at the 1 hour chart. You're also taking a look at some of the lower time frames, 15 minute, 30 minute, seeing what's going on. I like that. I like the idea that you've got overall. I think that it's important also, especially when you're trying to short U.S. indices, to be
Mhm.
very careful, right?
Yep.
Because these things tend to rise over time. So, the longer you hold something like this, inevitably, the better chance it is to slowly rise, right? So
That's
you
true.
can still catch downward momentum, right? I'm not saying you
Mhm.
can't, but you just have to be careful shorting because you can take a look at this market. We take a look at the daily chart really quick, and you'll see. I mean, this thing over time,
Just moves.
it tends to climb.
Yep.
Right, and it definitely does move. It has a lot of volatility, so it's just something to consider. Is if you're short on something like US30, be careful that you're not dragging out a short position because you want it to work,
Exactly.
as opposed to, hey, I called this correctly. Let's take those profits where we can.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So just my personal 2 cents
Yeah.
on trading these instruments. At the end of the day, of course, as always with all of our viewers and yourself, you have to make your own trading decisions.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I like that setup. I like the idea that you've kind of identified. I don't know if you intentionally caught the ranging market environment that we're in.
I did.
Cool.
I did. I caught it. And a lot of last week I caught it. A bunch of my wins
Mhm.
were off support and resistance levels from just looking at that.
Yeah.
And I did say like last week as well when I caught a lot of winning trades, I was like, let me just take my profits now
Yeah.
because like you said with these instruments, you just snap your finger and it's going
Right. It can
all the
move
way
again.
across. It can move again.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to, let me ask you one other thing with your strategy or your general approach.
Mhm.
Do you differentiate it at all? And don't feel bad if you don't. This is
Mhm.
kind of a little bit more advanced. Do you differentiate at all between? You said you trade pullbacks. Do you treat different market environments differently? So, for example, if you have a market that is overall trending,
Mhm.
right? You have something that's trending like this.
Mhm.
That's a different pullback scenario
Right.
than trying to trade pullbacks in this.
Exactly.
Because let's say, you're trying to trade pullbacks, right? So you have a momentum push right here.
Right.
If you're trying to buy the pullback here,
Mhm.
you're trading in a ranging market. So it's a little bit harder than, a pullback in favor of a direction biased market
bias. Right.
is a little bit different of a strategy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have
That's a
thought
good
about
point.
that or not.
No, I haven't thought about that. That's a good point.
So
Yeah.
it might be something to consider Because I have different strategies. I love to trade pullbacks, but when I'm in a ranging market,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for either to play the range or not to be trading it at all, one or the other, right? So in this case, as we mentioned with our pound Canadian conversation, right, we're in a ranging market. We identified very similar to Dow 30 or US30, right? You have a market that is back and forth dominant.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a strong directional bias,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like the person that has no political affiliation. They're kind of like, oh, they're here, they're there, right?
Exactly.
They're like strong. So that's how it is on pound Canadian. That's how it is right now on US30. So keeping that in mind, the pullback might be a different concept, or at least trading support and resistance might be a better way of putting a back and forth market like that.
That's a good point.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a very good point.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So I
cool.
definitely took something away from that.
Awesome.
Other than that, I've also been looking at gold here and there. And if people are in the VIP membership, of course, they know what Val said about gold.
Yep.
He has a buy limit on. He got in at market entry. But I think his take profit, I want to say, is 1,600. So he has it at around 30-ish pips.
Yep. Actually, did you see? I think this morning he sent a closed my trade and took partial profits, looking to re-enter again this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He just closed 74 pips there.
Yeah, 74 pips on it.
Profit. By the way, if you're watching this video and you don't know what we're talking about, Will and I, we, as well as Julie and the rest of our company, we offer an online community for traders who are looking to kind of what we're doing here, follow along with traders who have a little bit more experience. I've been doing this for 5 years. We've also got Val in here who, as we mentioned, he trades gold predominantly. Got a lot of experience there. If you're not already a member of the community and you're interested in it, you can join. There's a link down below in the description to sign up to join the A1 trading community. Again, just something to think about. I know
absolutely
it's definitely been a very helpful place for, I know, a lot of newer traders. And I think the fact that you're even following along with Val and his concepts is, I think that's great.
Definitely, because I'm just very curious of his mindset when he looks at, same for you, like when you look at charts, what all are you looking at to determine, whether it's a buy or a sell based on your analysis. And I think that's what I'm most fascinated with.
Yeah,
because
I think that's a good way to approach it. Is like,
what
are they thinking, as well as it's not just what are they trading, it's what are they thinking.
Exactly.
That should be a more important question, and then that's really what our service and our team is kind of focused on trying to provide for our viewers, is like not just where am I entering and why, or where am I entering, but why am I entering?
Exactly.
What am I looking at? And
that's what I mean.
That's 100% more valuable. So you can take that concept and that lesson and go do it for yourself.
Yeah, because oftentimes history repeats itself.
Exactly.
Oftentimes.
Yes.
Maybe not every time, of course, with the market, but usually, like you said, every trade is different, but you can still have the same principles for that trade.
With time, it's kind of funny. It's like you start to get, I have to be careful with this expression or this saying because it's dangerous to new traders. They say you should not be trading with your gut, right? But there is like an essence over time that it's a very like low key, very low profile feeling that I have in markets after, staring at charts for like 5 years. I have this slight feeling of intuition. It doesn't mean that I know what markets are going to do or that I'm some sort of wizard, but when you look at charts long enough, you start to spot patterns. You start to spot tendencies, even if it's somewhat like subconscious. Your brain just recognizes things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I think that this was a good segment to this week's
I did too. I loved it.
Yeah, this was great. Well, thanks for talking about your trades.
Yeah, no worries.